Coming up on WBOC News at Noon.
A community grieves, a memorial is set up, and now vigils are scheduled for the 8 family members who died of carbon monoxide poisoning in Princess Anne. Demonstrators take to the streets, a police officer charged with murder following a shooting in South Carolina. And oyster sales, and clam sales for that matter, in one part of Delmarva hit a record.
Now, WBOC News at Noon, Delmarva's news leader.
And good Wednesday afternoon, everybody. Welcome to WBOC News at Noon. I'm Steve Hammond. As the Somerset County community continues to grieve the loss of the family, some local Boy Scouts took part in honoring the Todd family in Princess Anne, as we see the Scouts here carrying crosses and flowers to the family's home last night in Princess Anne. Other people also helped to put down flowers and other items out of respect. The Boy Scouts even put up a tent to make sure that everything did not get rained on. The Scouts say they were happy to help out in this community's time of need.
We did all this because of, it's respect for the people that have passed. Where you're in a small community, it's important to be there for everybody that you know and that you respect.
Boy Scouts, among many people, paying their respects yesterday and continuing today to Rodney Todd and his 7 children who all died in their home from carbon monoxide poisoning.
And I am the producer of the noon broadcast as well as the anchor. So that's for the first 3 hours of my day up until about 1 o'clock. I'm focused on that noon broadcast, what's going on, what needs to be in my show, and then writing it, putting it together, and then anchoring it. Well, I was hired here way back in March of 1987 to be the Dover Bureau Chief and report out of our Dover Bureau. Well, the biggest change has been in technology. And way back when we used 3/4 inch tape was how we gathered our video. Now it's on a chip that big and a camera that weighs, a pound. And what I sort of do is I just sort of monitor. I monitor, what's going on Delmarva, what's going on around the world. Is stuff that's relevant in our newscasts? If it's not, should it be? All right, Brian, thank you. Still ahead on the news. A scary and bizarre moment. Well, we just won an award for our coverage of the rocket explosion from Wallops Island. And we were live on the air. It was during our 6 o'clock news. And once it happened, we sort of slid into our breaking news coverage, and we had our helicopter on the scene and up in the air, and our reporter on the ground. And
Bill Mitch, you are there on the ground. How far away are you?
Yes, Steve.
What do you see?
Steve, a couple miles away, we're standing here. We see the rocket go up in the air. We saw the flames like you saw. People are scattered around. You could feel the explosion. It knocked us backwards.
It's our home and our community as well. And so, I care very deeply about this community and the whole Delmarva Peninsula for that matter.
I went through a 5-week boot camp. I learned how to use the software that we use, how to enter stories, how to create graphics. I learned how to produce a newscast from top to bottom. Some people may say it seems really easy, you just throw some stories in there. Some people say it sounds really difficult. I don't know how you do that in a day, every day. Choose what stories are going in the show. That changes many times throughout the day. Based on breaking news and developing stories. And number one is breaking news. I live for it, but it can also be stressful. For example, yesterday, my lead story was the Israeli elections. And at 4 o'clock, the polls closed. So we were hoping for exit poll results. They didn't come in, too close to call.
Have already announced their candidacy, and other Republicans.
But it's my lead story, so I'm I gotta have something. And it came in at 4:50, which is when I'm going into the control room, getting ready to booth the show. So I had to get that in really quickly, change the scripts. It's very different. I know that it's very different to write for TV than it is to write for a newspaper or online. And it's not an easy task to explain in a 25-second VO what's going on with Iraq or whatever the story is. So I take pride in being able to do that.
It's 6 hours before game time. Of course, Camden Yards is empty. But come 8:07, first pitch of Game 1 of the ALCS, this place will be rocking. It'll be a sea of orange. And in that sea, Delmarva will be well represented. I was here in November of 2012. That's when I started, November 19th, something like that. And I came from upstate New York. I was in Elmira Corning Market. I was working in a bureau for our bigger station up in Syracuse. I'm going to do another news job. It's going to be somewhere closer to home, which is near Philly. We've got to come in every day with 3 story pitches from the area we cover, mine being Wycomico County. So I need 3 new pitches every day, and it's a small market. It's not a whole lot that goes on. So then we have our morning meeting. We talk about the stories they want to do. They pick the best one, and then I go out and shoot it, write it, edit it. I go out usually in the Salisbury area, try to find people willing to talk to me, which is a huge pain in the butt. When you come back, you write the story, you got to edit the story. Usually you're in 3 different broadcasts with a version of your story. The most stressful part of this job, undoubtedly, is when you have a story and you need to get the opinion of people on the street. Anybody who lives in Salisbury. If I'm doing a story about Salisbury raising taxes, I have to talk to Salisbury taxpayers. So I got to approach people on the street or knock on people's doors and convince them in 30 seconds to talk to me on camera. It's a nightmare. If something's happening a half hour before show, it's probably not going to make the show. If it's an hour before a show, you might have time to be able to re-edit, retrack your voice, rewrite if you need to. But if it's a half hour, 5:30 to 6:30, and you're changing your story around, it's not going to make air. And you get this feeling in the pit of your stomach because you know that not only are you letting yourself down, but you have a producer who has now 1 minute and 30 seconds to fill because you can't help her out anymore. And that's very frustrating. Every story is important. You're obviously trying to tell the stories that people care about. But there's the days that you get excited to do a story and you take the time to edit it and you put in that sound and you get good interviews. And when you know you put something together good, that's when you go home feeling better. It's not just another day where you went out and did a story about whatever.
I've been here since September of this past year. Well, just visiting WBOC for the first time, coming from another newsroom in a rural county in Maine and seeing the way this newsroom was built, just how it looked, was absolutely impressive. It's built like a top 40 market, and that just floored me. I was excited to come to a station and get to work at a place like this. But pitching stories can be a real struggle for me. Pitching stories that they like. I guess I can pitch stories, but here we want to do conflict type stories, and that can be tough when you don't know the community, you don't know the people in it, you're not cultivated sort of the resources to do that. The biggest challenge for me is finding those good stories to do every day. I'm an anchor. I love to anchor. I think my skills are more catered to it.
Chief Meteorologist Dan Satterfield is watching some developing thunderstorms on the radar again this evening.
I love the live work. I love when things go wrong, you being the person that has to sort of gather everything together and make sure the show looks smooth. When you've got all these people working behind you, you're sort of the face. Reporting is something I enjoy doing, but in the end, I love to be at the desk.
WBOC News at 5 on Fox 21 tonight because of Women's World Cup Soccer. Up next, right here on WBOC, The Family Feud with host Steve Harvey.
But the days I leave knowing the story I put out was a good one, knowing I actually want to go home and watch it and see how it is, and maybe look forward to hearing input from other people. The days where things are happening and I've done something to help the station in some way with the product, those are the days I really appreciate.
I started as the weekend editor, working that grueling shift with Mike Lichniak. My shift starts, it's from 3 a.m. to noon. So I usually get here around 3. I come in and it's totally go time. By the time I come in, my show starts at 5. So it's go time. I come in, I get my show done. My show is pretty much written. And then during the show, I operate the jib camera and I also operate teleprompter, which is a pain in the butt because my anchors are Lacey Griffith and Jimmy Hoppa, who speak at completely different read rates. Jimmy mumbles and speaks really fast, and Lacey speaks pretty like a typical broadcast anchor. If you can't take pressure, you probably should not be in this field. As an editor, it is our job to visually tell the story. So if they're saying, a producer is writing a script and they're saying, oh, and look here, and what they're looking at is not what it's intended to be, we didn't do our job correctly. So we're visual storytellers, basically.
We take you to Madison in Chopper 16.
Every single day we have a Proud to Serve with Mike Lichniak. It's a 1.5-minute video that has to be produced, and people think it's so simple, but it's not. We got Mike at the wall, we got to fly to the location, we got to shoot that, we have to have him read the script, we got to cut that together, we got music, we got graphics, We have green screen stuff we got to do, and we have a tag he has to do at the end. And the tags have to be recent because it's actually an advertisement for Johnny Janasic. So they have different advertisements that only last certain days. So if you don't get the thing done in time, it's useless. I started my internship, I think it was last May 2014, and I was an intern from May all the way through August. Pretty much every week you have to learn one new thing. And then after a while you look back and you're like, oh my God, we did things completely differently just 6 months ago. It doesn't matter what you think is gonna happen 15 minutes from now because it's not gonna happen. Just today, I went up in the chopper, I'm supposed to fly to Lewis, someone jumps off the bridge, I gotta fly in the complete opposite direction. Doing live shots every night, either with the microwave or if we're too far away with the satellite dish. The first time someone hands you a camera and they say you're live on TV right now and you know 200,000 people are watching, you're a little bit nervous.
Chopper 16 performs not only a news gathering role, but it also is a marketing role for the station to demonstrate its versatility to the populace of the Eastern Shore. Most people always are curious when it comes to flying a helicopter, what do all the controls do? The helicopter does not want to fly itself. An airplane will fly itself once you get everything set. A helicopter will not. This is the collective. This controls the pitch of the blades. It's what makes it go up and down. With single-bladed aircraft, you have the torque effect, so when the blades are spinning this way, the body wants to spin in the opposite direction. So that is why you have these pedals here. They control the tail rotor, which helps counteract the torque effect. Traveling at about 110 miles an hour, we can normally get to most sites on the Eastern Shore within 40 minutes on average.
The truck we're sitting in right now is $500,000, and they pretty much just give me the keys and say, go do your thing. That's a lot of responsibility.
I just grew up watching WBOC, and I know they're the best station in this area. So, and I like it around here, so I wanted to stay home.
It serves the community because it's the powerhouse television station on Delmarva. So if somebody goes, I'm going to watch the news, most of the time they're going to be turning on us. And WBOC has always, knock on wood, has always done a good job of covering the news on Delmarva. I'm really proud of this television station, and I'm proud to be a part of it and proud of what we've done over the past 28 years that I've been here.